Attorney General. It's nice to see you. Thanks
Good
for
to
being
see
here.
you. Thank you.
Hello, Attorney
Thank you, Mary.
General. Thank you very much for coming in. So let's start with something that's got a lot of people very anxious. The elections, the fairness and the legitimacy of the elections coming up in the fall. The Bay State Banner had a kind of just disturbing story about people trying to take away voting rights, placing people on inactive voter rolls, 60,000 residents in Brockton. So what do we think, protection-wise?
So this is really loud.
Oh, it is
Do you
really
know how to do
loud.
that?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
like a
You okay now?
You're
or no?
okay? You got it?
I think so.
Okay.
So there's an echo in your ear.
Shocking.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe this
Here
one.
comes Jamie.
Is it this
Jamie's
I
one?
think this is
walking
better.
over.
I think it's that one.
Oh, Jamie's coming over.
Thank you. God bless you. So first of all, thank you all for having me. Thank you everyone
Sure.
who's here in the library. I'm grateful. So yes, we've been getting a lot of outreach with respect to election integrity, access to voter files, and a few things. One is we've worked closely with the Secretary of State, and I tell folks, regardless of how you feel about our Secretary of State, he's the longest serving in the country, and so is great when it comes to best practices. Also, as we are filing multi-state lawsuits to protect voter information and the integrity of our elections and pushing back on the Trump administration, the partnership has been a game changer. And we have won more than one lawsuit in this space to prevent the Trump administration from accessing data files or even conditioning how we do immigration and other policy changes on access to voter file information. We are continuing, of course, to work with the Secretary of State on making sure people know about voting. Early voting starts on August 22nd. We're going to put out a Know Your Rights guide on this and have specifics on what people can do to access the ballot, how they can vote early, et cetera. We're doing that in partnership with the Secretary of State. And then lastly, we are pushing back on this sort of chaos and confusion. I think in other states where I work with other AGs, they are more concerned. So you think about battleground states, about the integrity of their elections. And I was just with some of my colleagues recently with respect to some lawsuits. And we're supporting each other in these, with these concerns. So I'm not concerned here in Massachusetts. If we have anyone interfering with our elections, we will mobilize, we will fight back. We were prepared to show up in court to protect the integrity of our elections. I think what I'm most concerned about is the lack of voter turnout. I've always been concerned about that since I was on the city council in Boston. You have in certain communities, even in our gateway communities, sometimes people turning out less than 10% of the population, voting population. Even in the most recent mayor race in Boston, I think it was under 25%.
Yeah.
I tell folks, you want to have elected officials who will be responsive to your needs, who will listen to you, who will fight on your behalf. We need you to show up. I can't do this job without having the citizens be partners with us in this work. So if anything, I think we have to continue to do a better job of telling folks about the importance of voting, being civically engaged. And frankly, I think the Haitian TPS issue right now is a great example, a sad one and an unfortunate one, as to why people must be civically engaged. We can file all the lawsuits to protect our people, but they will hit a wall as they did with Haitian TPS status, where folks no longer have that status. And that is heart-wrenching for so many families. So who's in these positions matters, and people do have a voice and you do have power when it comes to the ballot. So it's just a friendly reminder to get out and vote this year.
Can I work backwards? Because I do want to ask you about the election stuff, but since you mentioned the TPS is one of the first examples of the pain from this is Mamdani, who's obviously on the same side you are, had to lay off a ton of Haitian employees the other day because they don't have work permits because of this action of our felonious, sex-abusing president and the Supreme Court of the United States. I know you and the governor have been urging Congress to do something, which they could do. That's it, essentially. Unless Congress acts, ultimately, when Trump's people choose to deport these people back to a country that the State Department says is unsafe to travel to for the rest of us, there's nothing else that can be done.
Very little. And so we're pushing Congress because Congress does have the power to complement what Congresswoman Presley did on the House side with a bipartisan coalition to extend TPS for a few more years. Senator Markey and others have come together to try to do the same on the Senate side. That has gone nowhere, so it's really continuing to push Congress. The second is obviously the Trump administration can do something too. The Department of Homeland Security could change course. Massachusetts is the third largest Haitian population in the country. And this will affect our economy. People may not feel it now, but they will, especially in the context of elder care, healthcare service delivery, PCAs. And so we are continuing to push, not just Congress, even the Trump administration still, to change course here, not only for the economic impact, but also for the humanity and moral impact here. But the last piece I think is really important that we want to stress to every listener and anyone who is connected to anyone who is Haitian has that status, is to continue to reach out to my office or even the governor's administration, because we're telling folks there can still be potential relief for a constituent.
Another status other
If
than
they
TPS.
filed, right, if they have filed for asylum or
Yeah.
they have some other status they have been seeking. These are sometimes complex cases because obviously there are folks who've been here on TPS for a very long time. So there may be other relief available to them. So we're really pushing lawyers, particularly lawyers in the private bar, immigration lawyers, to step up and help us with these type of cases, particularly the ones that are more complex.
One last thing about elections. You said your greatest concern was not turning out. I mean, ICE threats, even if they're not specific, obviously are a problem. Plus, I mean, after the Supreme Court, whatever, a month or two ago, says as long as they're postmarked, mail-in ballots can be accepted after, depending on state law, Trump does another executive order to try to discourage mail-in ballots. Do you not worry that somebody who ordinarily would be a mail-in voter hears these things in the air and convinces themselves, maybe I can't even vote by mail-in ballot?
I think they can hear it. I think the posture and the priority of the Trump administration has been fear-mongering from the very beginning. And we have been telling folks we want to acknowledge that fear that people have. It's real. At the same time, we hope to encourage and inspire them to overcome it for the betterment of our country and most importantly for the sustainability of our democracy, and not just for us, mainly adults in this space, but for our children. I have 2 young boys, and for the generations to come, even if you don't have kids, to leave Massachusetts and this country better. And what gives me inspiration in this season, amongst that fear, when we're filing these lawsuits and they're putting targets on AG backs, is not only my children, of course, my faith, which runs very deep, and I'm praying for all of us, but also thinking about the history of black folks in this country who mobilized, forget with just fear at their door, with death threats and death at their door, to go and to vote and to ensure that I could run for Attorney General, that I could vote, and that I could, of course, have this position as Attorney General and the first black woman to serve in the role. People fought and died for that. And there was coalitions of not just black folks, a lot of folks who put their lives on the lines for some of the things that maybe we take for granted today, including our very Constitution. So that gives me inspiration. So I just encourage the listeners out there to find whatever gives you some inspiration to overcome that fear against that backdrop of fear-mongering that they are espousing against all of us.
You know, the first audience question I think we should take from a text, anonymous texter. Synapse Energy Economics released a study that mass electric customers are overcharged $22 a month. What are you going to do about it? The headline in the Globe, well, let me read the first paragraph in the Globe story by Hiawatha Bray. Electricity suppliers have charged New England customers billions of dollars in excess costs over the past decade, helping to explain the surge in monthly utility bills. What are you doing about that?
A lot. I will say one of my number one jobs is by statute of the laws that govern the Attorney General's office is the ratepayer advocate. So going to various proceedings to push back on utility companies, electricity companies, you name it, when they come to try to increase the rate for ratepayers. They have the ability to do that, but it has to be reasonable, and we are often in court pushing back through very complex cases, expert witnesses, to demonstrate at times that their request is not reasonable and is unfairly burdensome to the ratepayer. So we have saved millions of dollars for ratepayers where they would have had to pay a lot more without our advocacy, particularly when it comes to even when you think about competitive electric supply. We have been there since, I'm in year 4 as AG. Since year 1, pushing the legislature on changes that would make these industries more affordable. So whether it is, for example, even banning competitive electric supply, not for commercial real estate opportunities, because we see that is actually having an effect where it's reducing the rates. But when it comes to residential, it's going up. And some of their sales tactics in targeting poorer communities or communities of color, knowing that they are making a promise that their rates would go down when in fact they don't. So we have said it's so bad, the complaints are so bad, or our lawsuits aren't enough, because sometimes a company will file for bankruptcy after we win, that we think you should ban it. So we're pushing for that. There are other measures that we're working with the legislature. The competitive electric supply market for residential homes. We've been pushing that since year one. Other ways in which we're looking at changes is obviously do some legislative solutions too, not just our enforcement work. And that is looking at ways in which infrastructure, for example, we call it the GSEP, but different types of initiatives that allow utilities to bring in some dollars for infrastructure improvements. But we're saying, wait a minute, are you really using those increases in the ways in which they were meant to be designed? Are those infrastructure projects needed? And if so, should the ratepayer bear the brunt of that? And in some instances, we've said no. So this is work we have put at the forefront. We have a lot more resources even available to people on how they can reduce their utility costs. And so I encourage folks to reach out to our office on the specifics there. We could have a whole segment. I could bring a whole team actually to talk about this portfolio of work that is meaningful and significant. And some of it is some legislative solutions that we need fixed probably yesterday in order to continue to reduce costs for folks.
But
and
just
then
so I'm clear
last
here, this is not about what they're, correct me if I'm wrong, what they're seeking from the commission. It seems to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, that they're cooking the books on what their actual cost is, according to this analysis.
So what I'm doing is talking about the range of work that we do to lower ratepayer costs, because the majority of folks don't have a clue that we even have a whole division in the office that is directly responsible for this work. When we show up before the DPU or other hearings, this is just as important as what's in that article. And then, of course, we are, through various enforcement actions, investigating fraud, investigating all types of companies that promise a lower rate, knowing at the end, after someone's been signed the fine print, they didn't get a lower rate. And we've put out numerous reports that are particularly in the competitive electric supply market, we're seeing almost $1 billion in losses. So even with that analysis, even with those reports, some of the changes that we need to really reduce those costs are legislative solutions. And we'll continue to work with the legislature on that.
Okay, thank you for that, Attorney General. Let's go to the calls, 877-301-8970. Judy in Attleboro, Julie in Attleboro, excuse me. You're on with the Attorney General.
Hey.
Hi, Jim and Marjorie,
Hello.
Attorney General. I would like to ask why a company that is banned in every other state because it uses electric shock devices on neurodivergent children and adults is allowed to operate in Massachusetts. The Judge Rotenberg Educational Center recently bought a house in our neighborhood. It's a group home. And this company is the only company in the United States to use electric shock devices to regulate the behavior of children and adults with severe neurodevelopmental disabilities, including autism. It's been sued multiple times unsuccessfully. It was the subject of a Channel 5 five-part series. There have been articles in the New York Times and the Boston Globe. And I'm just astonished that Massachusetts is the only state that allows this company to operate. Every other state has banned them. My neighbors and I have contacted public officials, including your office, Attorney General, and we're interested in why this is the case, and are you willing to do something about it?
Thank you, Julie. Let's hear from the Attorney General. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Julie.
Julie, yes.
They were just correcting. Thank you. I couldn't hear her. I could only hear me. But So, Julie, if you can, I would love if you would just leave your number with us. Lauren's with me. We will follow up with you on this. We have actually been, I think, on the side that you're on when it comes to this issue generally, and we've actually lost at different stages in the courts on this very issue and the very practices that you were speaking of. And part of it is at times you have parents with children who think their children need and require this level of service. We may disagree with that, but it's very difficult to take a position sometimes that is opposite some of these parent coalition groups. that see the value in this service. But I would love if you would stay on. We'll certainly follow up with you, and I promise you that, Julie, on some of the other cases involved here. It's more than just one provider per se. It's a larger policy issue that allows for certain types of services to be done in this way, even if we disagree. And this is based on the coalition of folks who have children who they think deserve, and not just deserve, who they think need this level of service. But Julie, we will follow up. I got part of what you said, not all of it, but we will certainly follow up on
Julie,
this particular
please don't
provider.
hang up.
Please
We will
don't.
take all your contact info and share it with the AG.
We have a question from the library at the microphone here in the library.
Steve.
Hi, Steve.
You, Steve?
Hi, good
Welcome.
morning.
Steve.
Good morning, folks. Attorney General, good morning.
Good morning.
I have two questions related to nonprofits that your office oversees. And this is the nonprofit I have in mind is the Boston Symphony. To a non-legal mind such as myself, what is going on there strikes me as serious mismanagement. And at some point, your office is allowed to investigate when you determine gross mismanagement. And I'm just curious, what is the threshold for that determination? And related to that is recent revelations by the BSO staff show that the BSO management is already actively moving to be a producing organization and making the orchestra a secondary venture. Yet the management is seeking contributions to support the orchestra. When does that become misleading and fraudulent solicitations, which are forbidden under law and which your office must investigate? Sorry for such a long question.
Steve,
Thanks.
it's not
Thank
long.
you.
This came up before. I think the last time I was here,
Yep.
and we tell folks anytime they file a complaint about anything in our office, we will look into it. I think sometimes what gets a little confusing is our charities division, nonprofit and charities division, does not have authority when it comes to. We were talking about for-profit in some of the schools. We may have authority in other places. But if it's an open matter, I can't speak to it. But we're mindful of the news that people are reading, and we encourage them to file with our office concerns they have about some institutions, including the BSO, and to send that to us, and we look into them and we take them very seriously.
But Steve was asking not about, I think your first question was about the threshold. What's the criterion that
We
you
can follow
apply
up.
when looking into those things? So could you speak to that generally, not BSO related?
I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that in the context of it's still too big, so I'd prefer to just follow up.
Okay. And speaking of that, by the way, as we said, we have a guy who's been writing a lot about the situation at the BSO who will join us at
Well, first of all, I'll say
12:25.
thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
And the reason I'm always hesitant to be spewing out case law or anything on the radio is we look at a set of facts, we look at ways in which we might be able to approach those set of facts if there's some wrongdoing, and there's different ways in which we can do that. In the context of nonprofits, as Steve described, in the context of higher ed institutions, colleges, which we're in the midst of some things right now. So if Steve follow up, and we'll follow up with Steve
But let me
too.
just be clear. This I know you can answer. The power that you have in your charities division, one of the things you can look at is whether boards of directors on nonprofits have complied with their fiduciary obligations. Is that not correct?
We can look into some of that, yes.
Yeah, we can. Okay.
Yes.
Fair
Tom
enough.
Amesbury, you're on with the Attorney General. Thank you for calling.
Hello, Tom. Welcome.
Hello, how are you?
Good.
I am calling for the Attorney General. I hear she was just talking about electrical usage.
You don't have to refer to her as she. You're talking to her directly.
Yes. I'm sorry, Ms. Campbell. I am calling because I've been trying to get National Grid to give a break for off-peak rates. They do it in New York State, but not in Massachusetts. They do if you have an electrical car. I happen to have a smart electrical switch, which would allow me to take all my energy at night, particularly when it's very hot or in the winter. I can judge when I bring in electricity, but they have no way to do that. But I'm wondering why they can't be gotten to give off peak rates like they do that for New York State residents.
We
Same
got it.
company.
Let's hear. We have it. We understand, Tom. Let's hear what the Attorney General's response is.
So we can look into it. I mean, right now, it's actually not a bad time to do so and given what's happening in the state house right now in terms of all things related to affordability, energy. There's a big bill that we are part of advocating and inserting various provisions in, working with both the House side and the Senate side. But Tom, can you actually stay on with Lauren, who's here with me?
Stick around, Tom. We'll put you on
And
hold.
we'll
Don't
follow
go
up
away.
on this one?
Thank you.
He's
Thank
there.
you.
Attorney General, if I may, Tom, say. Okay, fine. We don't do screaming out topics at the library, but thank you.
No, and I hope you would come to the mic and address. No, I would hope you would come to the mic. Wait. Please don't. Please don't forcibly. Wait. Are you willing to come to the mic, say your name, talk about trans youth who are directly under attack? We have filed several lawsuits to protect health care access for trans youth and adults. We have won many of those. We're in partnership with every provider. So please, say it.
Yeah, I'll talk to you directly.
Yes.
We've had multiple meetings with your office. I'm part of a group that was the first time your office talked to any patients or families that had lost gender-affirming care in the state. And that was not in October when this all started. This was in April, and it was only after pressuring y'all over and over again. What y'all told children who are losing life-saving care, one after another, because these hospitals are not being shown that breaking the law is going to have any consequences for them in this state. And these clinics are dropping like flies, and your office keeps telling us, wait until it gets worse. There's nothing we can do, even though attorney generals in California and New York are taking the brave and correct stance of prosecuting hospitals for discrimination and for removing life-saving care that is protected in our SHIELD law and is protected under public access.
So your question for the AG is what, please?
The question is, why are you waiting for future federal regulations that your office doesn't know when they're going to happen to prosecute and protect the right of health care for every child in our state?
Thank you.
So first of all, thank you for that. Number one is we have always taken the obligation of ensuring access to those in our trans community very seriously and unapologetically. Many other states, including the Democratic AGs, have not signed on to every lawsuit that we have filed to protect access to funding and resources for this care, including when the Trump administration tried to go after these providers to say we will take away Medicaid or Medicare if you continue to provide gender-affirming care. We have won those lawsuits and we will continue to. We also have to make it clear that right here in Massachusetts, as of even right now and today, every single person that is choosing to get gender-affirming care or any type of health care is still eligible to do so here in Massachusetts. It is still legal, it is still lawful because of our advocacy and the advocacy of you, hospitals, community-based providers, et cetera. The third piece that may be a little different, and this is where the sticky point I think is we could choose to prosecute our own hospitals here. And I don't think we're there yet. And why? Kudos to New York and California. I work closely with AG James and AG Bonta. The last thing I think is helpful right now is if you have organizations, including Children's Hospital, Bay State, Fenway, doing the best they can under a federal regime that is targeting them every single day, including their providers, with attacks personally, professionally, seeking to take and rip away their resources, not just for gender-affirming care, for every healthcare resource you can think about, working against them, targeting them. I think the federal administration wants us to be doing this. And what is this? Our coalition dividing and one group of folks working against another. And so what I think...
This is not the way it works.
Can I finish? I let you finish.
We're not...
I let you finish.
Go ahead, Attorney General.
And so I do not think we're at a stage now where I should be prosecuting a community-based health organization or Children's Hospital or others who are doing the best they can. What I do think we can do is tell them what their legal rights and obligations are, which we have. And many of these providers will come back online because of our advocacy. And then the last piece I think is really important is anyone who is not getting the care that you say and I know they deserve and that is legally accessible to them here in Massachusetts, let us know. Because we're not leaving any patient, we are not leaving any patient without care. We're not leaving any patient without care. So then bring those folks to us.
Excuse me.
Then bring those folks to
Let
us.
the Attorney General finish, and then we'll have a conversation. No one can understand what you're.
No one can.
Is there more you want to say?
I will say we're not leaving any child without care. And because I'm not adapting to your strategy of prosecuting our healthcare providers, we may disagree on that. And that's unfortunate. We can't agree to disagree, but let me tell you this. We will not leave any care without care.
Excuse me. If you want to make, we ordinarily don't do this. If you want to make, excuse me, we will turn the mic. The mic is not on. No one can hear a word you're saying. We'll turn it on.
Okay,
This is no point. I'm sorry.
That's
Here's the last
enough.
chance. If one of you wants to make a follow-up statement, we'll turn the mic on. We will gladly hear it. I'm sure the AG will too.
I think what would be helpful is give me a complete list in confidence to my office, and you're in touch with our office because we have a roundtable discussion and we are meeting with you regularly. Give me a list of every single person and every child in this state who is not being able to access gender-affirming care, and we will make sure that they get the care.
Children to these meetings, and your attorney general staff has looked them in the eyes and told them there's nothing they can do because you don't believe in standing up to hospitals and clinics and holding them accountable. You would rather play buddy-buddy with them and protect them against our own civil rights laws. Okay. They are not doing their best. They are stomping their feet on the most vulnerable people, families who have moved across the country to get this care, and you're inviting them to your Pride events instead of saying, these are our laws, and this is what we're going to do.
No, we've made it crystal clear what the laws are, and let me tell you, they have not been happy with that. We've made them crystal clear. So I need from you all to let me know, right now, as of today, every single person in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that is not receiving the care that they need.
Okay.
And we will make sure that that does happen.
Okay, we're going to take a break. Jamie and Sandra, two of our coworkers, took the names of the three individuals who were just here. We will talk to them, and you wanted to say something else about the issues they raised, Attorney General?
I'm not going to pretend to stand in what their experience is as someone who is in the trans community. I know it's a community that's being targeted, especially kids. And it is life and death for folks in this community. We are fully aware of that. Hence why the lawsuits we filed against the Trump administration to protect access to care for this particular population have been so important. And we have filed many with the support of a Children's Hospital, a Fenway Health, Bay State, so many. We just don't think the strategy that in New York or California, and not every state has done this, is to prosecute a Fenway Health or a community-based health organization that is attempting to provide care in other ways for policy decisions they have made. We have made it clear to them that there is a legal right to gender-affirming care here in Massachusetts, and there are civil rights obligations. They are now looking to bring these services back online, but the reason they pulled back was out of real fear that they had that their Medicaid and Medicare funding would be taken away. You strip that away, maybe half the people in this library would not have access to health care. And so these are the considerations. And I do think, going back to the fear-mongering piece of the Trump administration, it is designed not just to create fear, but to create divisions in coalitions where you have that happen, where they then continue to put out policies that harm all of us. And so I will never accept or the suggestion that I don't care for young people or trans youth. I care for all of our kids. I've made that crystal clear from the beginning. It's hence why we've led the lawsuits on so many. And then the last piece that I left them with, and my team has too, is if there is anyone in this state who is not receiving gender-affirming care as legally obligated by our state to let us know, and we will make sure that they get the care they are legally obligated to. And we have done that, obviously with great confidence and careful how we, of course, share people's information, but we have done that. And we're still awaiting the list of folks who have not been able to receive care, Send me those folks, and we will make sure they get care, and we will continue to fight for them.
We're talking to the Attorney General. She's here to answer your questions in text at 877-301-8970.
Attorney General, your office just secured a $500,000 settlement with this property, Green Ocean Property Management, which apparently was illegally charging people for 250 lease renewals, $500 for a new lease. And I guess to get a residence benefit package, to get a phone number for emergency repair requests, they had to pay a monthly benefit for that too. What? Tell us.
Fees. So we often say the number one issue right now is affordability. Everything is too expensive. Healthcare, you name it. And so we passed, even our junk fee regulations was designed to make sure that all costs were transparent, and where people were attaching hidden fees, we go after them. So we continue to enforce our junk fees. This was actually slightly different than junk fees. This is just in housing fees generally, where we tell folks all the time they are not obligated to pay just random fees. There's a first month's rent, a security deposit, okay, but they were charging a new lease fee as you described, and so we were able to work with this company to reach a $500,000 settlement to give those resources back to the folks who were harmed, and to take on this company that is charging illegal fees, and we continue to do this affordability work. And remind folks that if you think you have been charged an illegal fee, to reach out to our office, and we can do something about it possibly.
Is $500,000 enough to discourage this kind of activity?
It depends on what the cases are. In some instances, given some of these egregious housing violations here, we've had other settlements that are in the millions. Mm-hmm. And sometimes are so egregious where we say it's not only the money that we're getting for restitution, we're telling certain companies you can't even operate in Massachusetts anymore because they are so egregious. So it depends on the nature of the case. But I want folks to know that we understand and hear folks loud and clear that everything is too expensive, and our job is to address affordability.
We started today with Marjorie asking you about election integrity. You told us last month or the month before you couldn't speak to the merits of any of the ballot questions till the process was over. Well, the process is over. There are 9 questions on the ballot. Question 4, which is primarily being led by the Secretary of State you mentioned before, is Election Day registration. Do you support Election Day registration?
Yeah, I've actually been on the record before on that one. I haven't taken positions yet, and I may or may not on all of the ballot questions. But when I was on the city council, obviously some of these issues appeared then. So whether it was expansion of public records request, same day voter registration, I supported in the past, and I have not changed.
Governor Healy said she supported question 1, which would expand public records law. The legislature and the governor, you support that too.
I do.
We're talking to Andrea Joy Campbell, Attorney General.
Diane from Dorchester, thank you for calling.
Hello, Diane.
Hi, Diane.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I'll try to be brief. My brother and I took over a condominium in the Fenway a year and a half ago, and we have tried to get the contract between the management company, ourselves, and the attorney. And I have asked the trustee, the attorney for the condo, and the management company, and my lawyer has asked. We have asked no less than 9 times. How can I compel them to produce these documents?
Diane from Dorchester, I like that you're from Dorchester. So can you just stay on, because this is so specific, and so I'm not sure if there's a specific role we can play, but it sounds like you have a lot of players involved here. But stay on. Lauren's here with me. If you leave your number and email, we can certainly follow up and see if this is a way for us to be helpful. Thank you.
Attorney General, Springfield's getting a new courthouse. You defended this $2 billion state contract that was awarded involving this courthouse. And one of the firms involved is co-owned by Ayanna Presley's husband, Conan Harris, and the head of the convention center, John Barros, who recused himself from the project after some people complained about it. There's a lawsuit from the losing bidders here. What they're asking for is an independent investigation, because of it being the Congresswoman's husband and John Barros, who's now the head of the Convention Center Authority. Why can't there be an independent investigation of this?
So I'm glad you asked this question because folks don't know that we represent state agencies when they are sued, almost all of them. DCAM was sued for various reasons you just described. We represent them. We represented them in this matter. And frankly, I didn't know who was involved in the beginning when the procurement was taking place. Yeah. We got involved after the complaints around appearance of conflict, et cetera. When we looked into the matter with DCAM, they have followed the law. They look at the lowest bid. The lowest bid that came in was hundreds of millions of dollars. I think it was $300 million, lesser than the bid that came behind it. And so they went with that bidder as a result of that. And so now, obviously, with Barrow stepping away, people have concerns about conflict of interest. He obviously maybe thinks he has a conflict of interest. I don't know. But I'm looking at the law and the way in which DCAM handled the procurement. And by the law, they handled it according to how they were supposed to handle it legally. And I think some have suggested that because we are representing DCAM, I am somehow in favor of the bid by Conan and by John Barrows. That is total nonsense. I'm not in favor of anyone's proposal. I'm in favor of representing DCAM, and DCAM in this process went with the lowest bidder that was $300 million cheaper, which is how the procurement process works. And now they are standing by that. That may change now that obviously people who were involved in certain bids are now changing or pulling out. That may lead to a different outcome, so we'll see.
But you don't even look at the conflict of interest issue? That's not part of your jurisdiction? Is that what you're saying?
So right now, when we look at this, did they follow the law according to
Understood.
how they were supposed to?
So shouldn't some outside entity look at least at that issue?
I'm not sure who will be tasked with that. But that's not my lane.
They're suggesting the Inspector General, obviously.
That's not my lane, right? There are other ways in which conflict issues can be brought up to the state and other state agencies too. So we'll see. And I don't even know how it will play out now that you have one major part of one of the bidding teams who have pulled out.
Okay,
Let's
so you're
go-
basically
sorry.
saying somebody else has to look. You're not going to order a conflict, outside investigation of this. Somebody else has to do it.
No, my job is just to represent DCAM.
Okay.
If DCAM, the state agency, did something illegally or fraudulently, then that's different, right? Then there's a conversation between me as their potential lawyer to say, if that's the case, then how do we reconcile that? Which is common sometimes, not common, I should say. It does happen where a state agency has been sued and I represent them and we look at the facts of the case and legally we say, wait a minute, you did not follow the law here. And so we either have to come to a conclusion of relief, settle this case, agree with the other side, and handle it appropriately.
Can we talk politics for a second?
No.
You know that there are a lot of your fellow Democrats who are decrying the fact that people like Abdul El Sayed, who just got the Democratic nomination for the U.S. Senate for Michigan, won the nomination there. This woman Hong is likely to win the nomination for governor of Wisconsin. Some of the primary races in New York City for Congress. Are you concerned about the, quote, direction that some part of the Democratic Party is taken, or are you comfortable with the expansion of the base?
I don't even give that thought. And this is what I mean by that. I wake up and I say my job as Attorney General is to go in and to protect the rights of our residents and the economic interest of the Commonwealth, and to protect our great state, and to ensure we're addressing the issues that people care about the most. And that is everything having to do with affordability, using our tools there, everything happening at the federal level with the Trump administration that is undermining our state and trying to take billions of dollars. And I do that work regardless of what political letter is by someone's name.
Yeah,
I don't care if you're a D.
your job would be
Can I
a lot
finish, Jim?
easier, would it not, if there was a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate that was able to stand up to Trump's excesses?
I don't care if your name is, if you have a D by your name, an I by your name, or an R by your name. That's how I do my job, seeing the humanity in everyone, and of course, delivering for real people. Yes, I do recognize that there are partners in this work with us, and then there are those who are looking to work against us. Our over 60 lawsuits demonstrate that the current president and federal administration are working against us. TPS, Haitian TPS is one example of that. Everything having to do with affordability. They're nowhere to be found. If anything, they're undermining that work. Great example, the tariffs conversation. That tariffs conversation, you had people standing at the border in Canada trying to determine the cost of steel. Because of that uncertainty, we had affordable housing projects, we need more affordable housing, being stopped as a result. So I'm going to stand against anyone who gets in the way. When Biden was president, there were things we worked with Biden on and then things we didn't. Right to repair was one example. We passed that here in Massachusetts. The Biden administration got it wrong and was working against us. We had to then work with our federal delegation, I see Congressman Lynch here, our federal delegation to get an agency to reverse course so that we could implement right to repair. So anyone who stands against what we're trying to accomplish, but the two things I think that keep me up at night maybe is the lack of voting. People not really seeing the value in voting and us trying to get past some of the noise to say there is value in your voice and in voting. You have an attorney general who's looking to do real things on your behalf. And then the second is the extremists on all sides where no one's hearing anyone. It's like the screaming match. I said, I'm not going to scream back at you. We agree to disagree. But the extremists on all sides where no one's listening to each other, and frankly, I think is so disconnected from what the average person is talking about. So my goal is less about what's happening, more about connecting to real people on the ground and delivering for them with the tools that I've been given.
So you're not going to be involved in any Democratic, any
Thank you
race,
for that.
candidacy of any Democrat running for Congress or the Senate, United States Senate?
Right now, I'm up for re-election.
No, I
so I'm
heard
hoping
that,
to keep my
yes.
job.
Speaking of that, by the way, since you brought that
I
up,
hope you vote
we
September and in November.
That's right.
can we talk about November for a second and you, not other people's races?
And I should say, we have a great federal delegation that we work with, obviously, that is on the right side of the issues we care about, including you think about Haitian TPS, you think about everything having to do with affordability. We have a delegation that or even folks being picked up unlawfully, we can call them and they can get our people returned. That's not the case for every AG that I work with.
So for the last 20-some years that I've been doing what I'm doing, and the last 13 or so at GBH, we've made a commitment either on the radio or on my old television show that any constitutional office where there was not a debate scheduled, we would do it because we think the voters are entitled to that. Michael Walsh, who's your Republican opponent, has agreed to do a debate here. We're not invested in us doing it. We want somebody to do it. We spoke to your office a couple of weeks ago. We haven't heard yet back. Are you going to commit to debate Michael Walsh?
Well, we're evaluating requests, and so we will circle back. We got yours too.
Well, I don't care about
Thank
us.
you.
Are you going to agree to debate him
I
somewhere?
will see. And why I say that is, I think right now at this stage we're asking the wrong question.
What is the right question?
Why is he still on the ballot? Here is someone who unlawfully and fraudulently obtained signatures to appear on the ballot. Everyone, including him, and anyone on the Republican side, should be demanding that he drop out of the race. How do you run for Attorney General where you're the chief law enforcement office, an officer of the state, of the Commonwealth, and you just broke the law to get on the ballot?
You know there's a felon as president of the United States. He's
I'm talking
entitled
about.
to run. You know that.
I'm talking about.
Okay.
I didn't vote for that
I understand.
felon. I'm talking about this particular opponent.
But he has been declared. Didn't the Ballot Law Commission rule on his candidacy and those signatures?
The ballot commission threw him off, and through a technicality, he got back on through a technicality.
That's it, right?
But he still has yet to address that issue.
But he's on the ballot. So let me
But
just be clear.
no
There's
one's
a
called. He should not be on the ballot. And if he admits to fraudulently receiving signatures to get on the ballot for Attorney General, the question you and others should be asking, including the Republicans who are running side by side with him, is why are you still on the ballot? You just broke the law to get on the ballot. Every voter should be concerned about that.
So just to be clear, and then I'll move on after this.
Mm-hmm.
If he remains on the ballot post into September, you are not committing that you will debate him before the November
I'll see.
election.
Right now, my focus is why isn't anyone in the Republican Party calling that out and asking him to remove himself from the ballot?
Well, Jim, this is trickle-down Attorney General lawlessness coming right from the top, I would say, right from
What do you
Todd
mean?
Blanche.
Well, there we go.
We
from
we have
Todd
an Attorney
Blanche.
General who's advocating breaking all sorts of laws and may have broken some himself. Let's go to Liz.
Well,
from
we can't disagree with the fact that he broke the law to get on the ballot. That alone for me says you're not qualified to run for Attorney General. We got our signatures lawfully. Our volunteers mobilized. People were busy. They mobilized to make sure I had an adequate amount of signatures to appear lawfully on our ballot. Everyone should be concerned about the fact that there were several Republican candidates here in Massachusetts, forget the national, just our local state, who got on the ballot unlawfully. Some were thrown off, others were not because of a technicality and how they were given notice. But at the end of the day, he got on the ballot unlawfully, and he should not be on the ballot, and he should remove himself.
Yeah, there's a story in the Herald and the Globe in the last 2 days about Rachel Rollins, the former and current candidate for the DA's office, having fraudulent signatures. She's not directly being blamed, but there's some Chelsea city councilors who are saying that they never signed her petition, and they're all on there. Should she be knocked off the ballot too?
If she fraudulently got on the ballot, yes.
But this guy has been found not to have fraudulently got on the ballot by the Ballot Law Commission.
No, that's not true.
That is true.
No, he was removed from the ballot, and then the court reinstated him. They reinstated him because the Massachusetts
court did, yes.
Democratic Party did not serve him properly. It was a technicality. The substance of him unlawfully and illegally getting on the ballot is the same. And that's the part that concerns me and should concern everybody. And I don't care if you're Republican, Democratic, Independent, right? We have laws in place. We expect certain people, including our president, to abide by them. We should be doing the same. That's the question for him.
Let's go to Liz in Cambridge. You're on with the AG. Welcome.
Liz?
Hi.
Liz, yeah.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, Liz.
I'm very worried because the federal government's policy is to support fossil fuels when we can see and feel the warming of the planet with critical consequences for our children and grandchildren.
Right.
Why is the state letting corporations build huge buildings, including public housing, without requiring heat pumps and solar panels and other alternative energies?
Well, I can't. So, first of all, Liz, I don't disagree with you. The federal government is not a partner at all on us working to address climate issues. Frankly, they're working against us even on the endangerment finding, as you are fully aware of, which we fought and continue to fight to protect, which Massachusetts led on, which is a game changer in the whole climate conversation. That greenhouse gases do indeed lead to climate change. We're fighting for that.
But you could
Excuse
be
me, Liz, let the Attorney General answer your question,
And
please,
I would
if
just,
you would.
in this, I'm using as an opportunity, Liz, to educate an audience, right, on some of the work we're doing to fight back. And some of it is, protecting our offshore wind industry, which would have went under completely without our lawsuits. So on the building piece, there is ways, I think, for the state to do that. Even at the local level, when I was on the city council in Boston, there were ways in which, as we were navigating conversations on development projects, to allow for developers to work with them to be actually green forward, we would say, to put in certain proposals and policies to make their buildings more climate friendly, more green, and developers did that. And there was a willingness to do that, especially if you could cut some of the bureaucracy in bringing on housing, for example, online sooner. So I know it's happening in some parts. It may be municipalities handling it differently. So there's an opportunity, I think, for the state to address it. It wouldn't necessarily be out of our office, but it could be out of EEA and other state agencies to push for some of this, along with, of course, building code changes that are also applicable here, too.
Okay.
So I don't disagree with you, Liz. I know we're running out of time. I don't disagree with you, Liz. I think we're moving in the right direction. And certainly there's a lot more we can do.
Liz, thanks for the call. Appreciate it.
I wanted to fit this in because this so upset me. Every time there's a school shooting, a lot of people that are anti-gun control say it has nothing to do with the guns. It all has to do with mental health. So after a bunch of these shootings, Congress approved $1 billion to bring all these mental health professionals to U.S. schools. And now the Department of Education wants to get rid of all these grants. You're one of the attorney generals that's fighting it. Elaborate on what's happening here.
So whether it's mental health grants in the context of Department of Education, there are other agencies too. We have several lawsuits to protect access to mental health grants coming to our state, including school districts and others. But on your larger point, it's not just one thing when you talk about a school shooting. mental health grants, mental health supports, absolutely critical. There's a mental health epidemic in Massachusetts, in this country. It's even why we're taking on big tech, why we have lawsuits against a Meta and a TikTok for everything they're doing to perpetuate that mental health epidemic, right? It's the reason why we have legislation right now to hold them accountable. At the same time, we know our gun rights here in Massachusetts work. People are modeling their gun rights in other states on what we have here because they're so progressive, and folks are coming after them. We are frequently defending and helping other states defend an assault rifle ban, for example, and other ways in which to protect our folks. And people have done the numbers to correlate progressive gun law states with lesser school shootings compared to other states that don't. So you need those two, and there's a way to do it while still protecting the Second Amendment. So I think it's just a matter of shifting the conversation to your point. And then, of course, we'll continue to fight for mental health grants. We need more resources in this space, and some of our lawsuits will do just that.
You know, Attorney General, you mentioned earlier this horror show around TPS, particularly around Haitians in this country and what you're doing. The New Bedford Light, which is this wonderful pop-up news organization, obviously in New Bedford, it took a look at staffing in nursing homes. Let me read a little. Half of the state's nursing homes failed to meet one or both of the state's minimum, meaning statutory minimum staffing standards last year. Most for-profit facilities were out of compliance. Most non-profit facilities were in compliance. What are you doing about these violations of minimum staffing laws?
There's a lot we're doing through our Medicaid fraud unit, which, well, I was about to say something. I better be careful because we're...
Oh, say it.
No,
say
we're
it.
under review. I'm going to leave that alone. So a lot. And I think it actually becomes even more challenging for-profit. I'm sure the congressman will speak to this. You're seeing more for-profit players in elder care services. And sometimes it's even difficult to figure out who the who is behind the company name to hold them accountable for some egregious acts. But our Medicaid fraud unit has done tremendous work in this space. So there's a lot of compliance that we have to do. In addition to that, we talked about this before. We have cases where we're winning millions of dollars to give back to the state because Mass Health was defrauded, and we're continuing that work. We're also holding folks accountable. We're putting in compliance monitors. But then the backdrop is, in certain parts of the state that make it more difficult, is if you were to close that facility that is under compliance by our office or by independent compliance monitor, where we've gotten millions of dollars back because they've defrauded the state, if you close that facility, there's no other place to send those patients. And they know this. And so we're looking all the time creatively of how we push back to hold people accountable for this egregious behavior. And this is where obviously some legislative solutions might become in place. And this is also where the feds play a critical role too, including the U.S. Attorney's Office, that we work well with on some cases. And so we'll continue to do the best we can in this space.
You only have a minute or so left. Marjorie was too shy to ask this question. She wanted me to ask, have you ever snuck out of an event by hiding in a catering truck to get away from the... A lot of people want to know. How many times have you done that?
Yeah, we heard it happen.
Raise
AJ.
your right hand and tell us if you've ever done that. Is that, you ever done that?
That'd be a no.
No?
That'd be a no.
No, okay.
But I will say just two things. I love my job, and I'm going to continue to get out here to earn the support of voters this year in this election, because I want to keep it and fight on your behalf. The second is, and I said this in the context of Haitian TPS, I think we can all go about our lives and our days sometimes just immune to all that's happening around us. The Haitian TPS issue is a major one. You had folks who came here lawfully, who started families, who worked jobs, who were not committing crimes, even though folks would suggest that all immigrants are somehow committing crimes in Massachusetts. That's nonsense. And now you have families or parents who are sitting maybe in their living room trying to decide if they leave here because they no longer have status and go back to Haiti, where the State Department, as you said, says we should not travel to. And if they then leave their child who was born here and is a citizen here, leave that child behind or take that child with them. Do this emergency planning. That's unacceptable in the great state of Massachusetts and in this country. And the best thing about Massachusetts is we have rich histories of Irish, Jews, Italians, you name it, who came here for a better choice, a better life, because of the circumstances that exist in Haiti right now. All of us have an opportunity to play a role here, even if we just went on our Facebook and said this is wrong. That's saying something, but we need to say something. So thank you all for having
Can we
me.
ask you one last favor before you go? We're going to, as I said, meet with those 3 young trans advocates who are here. Can you share with us what you're able to after, if they reach out to you, whatever you're permitted to share with us? We'd appreciate you doing that.
Absolutely.
Thank
Absolutely.
you so much. It's good to see you.
Thank you
for
very
your time.
much.
Attorney General Andrea Joy Campbell.